I know everybody is probably saying this in their wrap-up video, but it's November already, which means we are that much closer to Christmas. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I am going to be doing my October wrap-up for you guys. I had a really good reading month actually this month. I've read 5 books. I haven't been reading as much as I normally do, and so I was really excited to actually be able to read those 5 books. Around the time of, I think it was August or September, I actually lowered my Goodreads reading goal because I knew I wasn't going to make 100 books this year. So I wanted to lower it, and then as I got closer to it, add 5 books. So I've read 5 books, so I added 5 books. So I'm now sitting at, I think, 65 as my Goodreads reading goal, and as I get closer to that, I'll add to that. I find that a little bit more attainable, and we'll see what I end up with at the end. I have no physical copies of the books to show you. Actually, they were all library books, as well as one was a PDF version that a friend sent me. So let's get into the books I read. The first book I read in the month of October was Spinning Starlight by R.C. Lewis. This is the same author who wrote Stitching Snow, which I really enjoyed. It had that Lunar Chronicles space fairy tale retelling vibe with standing on its own and being a very unique original story. So Spinning Starlight, I think, I'm not 100% sure on the fairy tale it's a retelling of, but it's the one where the brothers are all turned into swans and the sister is made unable to talk to save her brothers and has to go on the quest to save her brothers. I'm not sure what that fairy tale is called. If you guys know, let me know in the comments below. I would love to know exactly what that fairy tale is, but this was a space version of that fairy tale. Lady Jansen is a 16-year-old heiress of her family's company. She is going to take over a very predominant technological company, and she's going to be managing that once she reaches of age. And then one day all of her brothers go missing. She has, I think it's like 7 brothers. So all 7 of her brothers go missing, and she finds out there's this plot within her company, and then she is made unable to speak. If she speaks, then her brothers will die. And she goes on this quest to try and find help, to try and find and able to actually save her brothers. She meets, I'm terrible at character names, especially if they're like alien space names, but she meets this ambassador from another planet and ends up enlisting his help to try and save her brothers without really speaking and telling him about what's really going on. So it's a really frustrating plot. I found this story actually kind of frustrating. Like, I really felt the frustration of the character being unable to speak and unable to communicate what is going on. So on her planet, they actually don't use letters anymore. They use symbols and computers. So she's not able to just write out what she needs. And then on the other planet, they have a whole different alphabet and way of typing and communicating with words on screen or paper, I guess. So she has to learn a whole new way of communicating. She doesn't have her way of communicating, and so she just has this frustration of having to learn, and she has this panic of trying to save her brothers. So you really felt that frustration during the whole book. This wasn't as action-packed as Stitching Snow, so I did find it lagged quite a bit. I really enjoyed Stitching Snow a lot more than I enjoyed Spinning Starlight, but I still really enjoyed the space fairy tale. And then once it was more toward the end where the action kind of kicked off, then it got really exciting and it really picked up the story. Also with Stitching Snow, there was that little bit of content where she was, as a child, I don't know if she was actually abused by her father. There was alluding to that her father found her attractive, and some couple things happened with that. So there was that little bit of content in Stitching Snow, but it was still pretty clean. And Spinning Starlight, I actually found a lot cleaner. Like, there was no problems for me with anything in Stitching Snow. So I really enjoyed that story, just to enjoy a fairy tale retelling set in space. And I really like this kind of genre that is popping out. For Spinning Starlight, I gave it a 3-star rating. Like I said, it really lagged. It got really frustrating because you just wanted to get the story moving. But toward the end, it really picked up and was an exciting ending for me. The next book I read was actually a special book, and that was a PDF version of Melanie's book, Facing the Gray, and this is Melanie Kilsby from Christian YA Books and More. I've mentioned Melanie a lot on my channel. We have our Goodreads reading group that we do together, and Melanie tweeted me one day and asked me if I wanted a copy of her book to read, and I said yes. I was actually going to ask you where I can get your book. So she sent me her second book, Facing the Gray. I'm not 100% sure what kind of genre to put it in, but it is YA, kind of realistic, everyday, contemporary genre, but it deals with a lot of issues and your faith through those issues. And I found it a really intriguing read, a really compelling read, and I just couldn't put it down actually. I almost read it in one setting. It follows this young girl, Zoe, who has just become a Christian, but her past is coming to haunt her with a lot of things that happened in her past, and she's trying to deal with all of those while trying to deal with a new faith and keeping her faith strong. Now, there is a first book, Reality, Darkness into Light, that does a lot more of the background story to Facing the Gray. It would have been nice to read that one first, but you don't need it to read Facing the Gray. But there was a lot of things that happened that probably would have made more sense had I read the first book first, but I still got a good, clear understanding of what happened in that first book. There's a lot of things that goes on to Zoe. She is a young 14-year-old girl. She is displaced from her home. She is pregnant, and she's dealing with all of that and growing a brand new faith and struggling with that. Like I said, it was a really compelling read. There's something about books where teenagers, I know this sounds awful, but there's something about books where there's so many struggles, but you see people really growing through the struggles and finding their faith and finding their way through it that I really enjoy reading. Now, a large part of this book is just Zoe trying to find a forever home, trying to find people who love her, who are going to take care of her, who are going to help her grow in her faith, and who are just going to welcome her into their hearts. There's a lot of things that go on in this book. Like I said, she is pregnant, so there was a sexual assault that I believed happened in the first book. So there is a kind of a trigger warning for that. There's also a trigger warning for the occult and also abuse. So there is a few trigger warnings for that. It was still relatively clean. I do recommend it. If you are a little weary about that, let's chat it up in the comments below. I'll give you guys some more information about that. Melanie writes it really well, where there's not a lot of graphic detail, but you get a lot of ideas. But it's done in a way where these are very negative. This is sin in the world. This is very negative. But faith in God and our faith in Jesus can conquer these things. And so I really like the way Melanie wrote that. So I gave it a 4-star rating. There was a lot of stuff going on and it felt too much at sometimes, but she really honed in on one line of the story toward the end. So I really liked that. And she also left a massive cliffhanger at the end. Like, I flipped the page thinking there was more, and then there wasn't, and then I tweeted her right away saying, how could you do this? Like, what kind of a cliffhanger was that? So yeah, 4-star rating. I would definitely recommend you guys pick this up. It is out November 15th. I will leave a pre-order link down below for you guys if I can get that from Melanie. I believe it will be available on Amazon. I will double check with her. If not, go check out Melanie's channel, follow her, and she'll definitely give you more information as well. The next book was kind of an indirect recommendation from Amy C. Books. She was talking about the statistical probability of love at first sight by Jennifer E. Smith, and it really intrigued me. It's about a girl that goes to London, meets this guy on the plane, and then they kind of have this whirlwind romance, and I wanted to pick it up because that whole idea really spoke to me. Plus, it's about somebody going to London, so I picked it up. This book was a lot more than the whirlwind romance, and it actually really impacted me emotionally. I was so surprised. So a lot of this book is actually about Hadley going to London for her father's marriage, and he's getting remarried, and she doesn't want to deal with that. So she's dealing with a lot of emotional baggage from that whole problem with her father, and then she meets Oliver on the plane. So aside from the adorable romance, there was also just huge emotional impact for me. I also really identified with Hadley because it was almost an identical story of how that happened with my family. I also really enjoyed the whirlwind romance. It was funny, it was sarcastic, it was just this adorable banter that they had, and it was a really well-written story. They're also a really fast read. I highly recommend it. I gave it a 4-star rating. I really liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Then I read The Courageous Princess Volume 3, The Dragon Queen. This is the third and final installment in the Courageous Princess graphic novel series by Rod Esperanzoia. I'm terrible with names, but I'll leave the photo here and link in the description. So this is the third installment of a really kind of whimsical fairy tale-esque retelling graphic novel, and I really enjoyed it. It had a really good ending, had a really good wrap up. I really like that she's kind of a save yourself princess, but also needing help from her friends and stuff. So I really liked the integrity and the quality of character of this princess. And I just overall really enjoyed it. Had a great family aspect, had a great friends aspect, and was just a really good whimsical fairy tale feeling. So if you like fairy tale feeling, fun, whimsical stories, I definitely would recommend the Courageous Princess series. This one wrapped up really, really fast. I felt it was missing a few things, so I only gave it a 4-star rating, but that's still relatively really good. The last book I read was The Adoration of Jenna Fox by Mary E. Pearson. This is the first book in the Jenna Fox Chronicles. I tried reading her latest book or latest series, The Kiss of Deception, but I just couldn't really get into it, so I decided to read one of her first series, The Adoration of Jenna Fox. It had a lot of really good hype about it, and Suzanne Collins blurbed it, and I really love The Hunger Games, so I thought I would try this one out first. It is a very strange dystopian about a young girl who's been in an accident and then it doesn't remember anything and is trying to put her life back together, but you find out there's a lot more going on that meets the eye. Now, this isn't a scary book at all. This isn't even a thriller, but it left me with a really eerie feeling one night while I was reading it, and I had to read it with the lights on. It just left me eerie because you knew something was more going on in the background and you wanted to know what, but you couldn't just figure it out. I really like the writing in this. It was particularly really good, but it did slow down quite a bit because there wasn't a lot of action. I was expecting something to kind of kick in and she would take off on this quest or this fight to regain herself, but it was just a really slow moving mental game of finding herself, so it wasn't as action-packed as I thought it would be, so it slowed down quite a bit for me in the middle of the book, and then toward the end it only picked up a little bit more and then left me kind of wondering why this is even a series because the ending wrapped up really well, so I'm interested to see what the next 2 books are like. This one had a little bit of stronger kissing content, but it was still relatively clean. There's also some mild language, but it wasn't too condensed and there wasn't a lot of it. So I gave it a kind of a mild content rating. I would still consider this relatively clean. If you like the Hunger Games, but like more of a mind aspect to it than an action aspect to it, then you would really like this series as well. Overall, I only gave it a 3-star rating just because it was pretty slow in the middle and did slow down toward the end. But the ending has me really curious as to how the next 2 books are even connected to it. So those are all the books I read in October. Like I said, I read 5, so I added 5 to my Goodreads reading goal. And let's see what I can do toward the end of the year. I hope I can kind of keep this stream up. I kind of hit a bit of a slump trying to find my next book, but I'm going to head over to the library right now as soon as I'm done filming this and see what they got. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!